Welcome, dear students, scholars, and esteemed colleagues. Today, we are going to talk about universal health coverage. This is a very important topic and one of the most important ongoing and unfolding phenomenon in the domain of health and healthcare. This topic is also very much interrelated with the topic of privatization of health because universal health coverage is somehow trying to address some of the negative consequences of privatization of healthcare and some other related issues. But at the same time, privatization of healthcare as a process is also engaging some of the initiatives taken under universal health coverage. So both these topics are interrelated, and while discussing this topic, we'll refer to several things that we have addressed under the privatization of healthcare because all those things are integrated and interrelated. Not many sociologists have discussed the issues related to universal health coverage because of its engagement with health, finance, and health budget, and several other related concepts. This is often considered as an economic topic or economic issue and less as a sociological issue. But let me make you understand and let me tell you that because of the consequences of the privatization of healthcare and actually some kind of health inequality and inequity and the rising cost of healthcare and the burden of out of pocket health expenditure, this concept of universal health coverage has equally important relevance for students of sociology because sociologists try to understand social inequalities operating under different domains, and health is one such area. So this topic is very important, and let me share with you that it will remain important maybe for next so many decades because this is going to get central attention at the level of the society and policy making in next few decades. So I have prepared my slides for this presentation and I'm going to share my screen. Yes, universal health coverage in India. This discussion will try to address some of the important points that I have mentioned here. Why do we need to talk about universal health coverage? Then what are the issues related to health spending and health expenditure? Or what are the initiatives taken under universal health coverage program in India? What kind of assessment is available for the existing models? And how can we make UHC more comprehensive and inclusive in India? Why do we need to talk about UHC? So there are several issues. I've tried to include some of them here. Across the world, more than 100 million people are pushed into poverty each year because of healthcare expenditure. We talked about these issues in the previous lecture, and you can watch that lecture if you have not watched that to understand this negative consequence of rising cost of healthcare. But this is an avoidable tragedy. Avoidable in the sense that whatever the negative consequences of rising cost of health expenditure is there could be addressed through policy corrections. And a universal health coverage is one such attempt to address those negative consequences. Striving for the goals of universal accessibility and affordability of health and healthcare, World Health Organization proposed a model for health system financing. An important development after Millennium Development Goals at the global level related to health policy and planning is the development of new vision of universal health coverage for citizens at national level. Member states of World Health Organization committed in the year 2005 to develop their health financing system in such a way that it can address two basic issues. Now, what are these two basic issues? First, all people have access to healthcare services. And second, people should not suffer financial hardship because of availing those healthcare services. That means two basic issues. First, how to develop access to healthcare services, and second, they should not suffer financial hardship because of this. These goals were defined as universal coverage, sometimes also identified as universal health coverage. USC is primarily meant to protect people from financial hardship caused because of cost of healthcare. We need to understand health financing and health expenditure patterns at national and household level for understanding the larger notion of universal health coverage, because it is related with health financing, health budget, health expenditure, and overall expenditure. So there are few macro level things that we need to understand. There are key health financing indicators for India. I have taken these figures from Health and Family Welfare Statistics in India 2019-20. This is an NHA data, that is National Health Accounts data. Figures for several years are provided. The source is same. First thing, we need to understand the total health expenditure. What is this total health expenditure? For any nation or nation state, whatever is the total amount which is spent in that particular year or financial year is basically identified as total health expenditure. To make it simple, basically the government is spending money and people are also spending money at the level of the households. And then there can be other possible agencies also. So when we make a sum of all those expenditure, it makes us total health expenditure. This is a very simple term. We all are aware of GDP, that is the gross domestic product. Every nation state is having an estimate of its own GDP. And when we talk about the specific, when we talk about the share of a specific segment of the economy, we generally calculate that in terms of percentage of the GDP. Because if we go by the absolute numbers, then the absolute numbers keep on changing. But the ratio or the percentage with the GDP gives us some kind of consistent figure. So total health expenditure as percent of GDP for the year 2016-17 was 3.8. Now, this figure remained same for the year 15-16, that is 3.8, but this was 4.2 for the year 2004-5 and rather 2004-5. So what is the trend? The trend is this, that the total health expenditure as percent of GDP is actually decreasing from 2004-5 to 2016-17. In 4-5 it was 4.2% and in 16-17 it was 3.8%. Second important indicator here is total health expenditure per capita. on the basis of the current prices. Per capita, when we divide the total amount with the total population, we get figures related to per capita, that is per individual. So total health expenditure per capita on current prices was 4,381 for the year 1617, and it was 1,201 for the year 2004-5. That means the per capita health expenditure or per capita total health expenditure is increasing continuously from 2004-5 to 2016-17. Then total health expenditure per capita at constant 2011-12 prices. Prices actually keep on fluctuating, increasing because of several economic processes related like inflation, appreciation, depreciation sort of thing. So the economists suggest the prices on the basis of constant prices for a specific year identified. So the year identified here is 2011-12, and so the total health expenditure per capita at constant 2011-12 price was 3,503 for the year 2016-17, 3,405 for the year 15-16, 3,231 for the year 14-15, and 2,066 for the year 4-5. So even in terms of the constant prices, we see that the per capita expenditure is increasing gradually. Then we come to most important indicator here, that is government health expenditure percent of the total health expenditure. That means out of the total health expenditure, what is the percent of the government health expenditure? What proportion of amount is spent by the government in the total health expenditure? And the figure is given as 32.4 for the year 16-17. And for 4-5, the figure was 22.5. That means the proportion of government health expenditure on total health expenditure is actually increasing. So in simple words, we can say that the government health expenditure or the share of the government health expenditure is increasing over the years. And then what is happening to the out-of-pocket expenditure? Now, what is this out-of-pocket expenditure? Basically, when people spend money from their own pocket, that means if the money is not funded by the government and if the money is actually spent by people, citizens at the household level, then this is known as out-of-pocket expenditure. Now, what is the share of this out-of-pocket expenditure? This is 58.7% of the total health expenditure for the year 16-17, and it was 69.4 in the year 2004-5. That means the share of out-of-pocket expenditure at the national level, that means the out-of-pocket expenditure as percentage of total health expenditure at the national level is 58.7, and this is declining. We need to remember here that here we are talking about the macro figures, the national level figures. We are not talking about the household level figures. So this number will appear again, the proportion of the out-of-pocket expenditure. But when we will calculate it at the household level, the number will be very different. Then there are other components also or other indicators also like social security expenditure on health as percent of the total health expenditure. So there are different components in the total health expenditure. One is the government, second is the out of pocket, third is the social security expenditure. And this is 7.3 in the year 16-17. This is also increasing from 2004-5. Then private health insurance expenditure as percent of the total health expenditure. This private health insurance expenditure is 4.7 when we calculate its percentage from the total health expenditure. This is also increasing. So this is the general composition of the total health expenditure. We need to remember this. We need to understand this. One figure that is important, that is very important here, is the first figure, that is the total health expenditure as percent of GDP. Because very often we compare this figure with the figures available for several other developed countries or developing countries. Because very often we calculate the health funding available for different countries in terms of the ratio of total health expenditure as percentage of GDP. Now we move to next important slide, and this is giving us information about the ratio of the total health expenditure, then government health expenditure, and out of pocket expenditure at the level of major states. India is a federal country. We know that there are several states and union territories, and uh, we are providing data related to major states. Total health expenditure is given in green color, and out of pocket expenditure is given in yellow color, and government health expenditure is given in red color. We can see this, that the ratio between out of pocket expenditure and government expenditure is very much visible, and we see this, that the out of pocket expenditure is much higher than the government health expenditure. And this is almost same in case of many states, except few like Gujarat. In Gujarat, we can see this, that the out-of-pocket expenditure and government health expenditure are very close to each other. That means the government health expenditure is much higher in the state of Gujarat. Similarly, we can see that in some states like UP, although the government health expenditure is higher than many other states, but the out of pocket expenditure is much higher. Or we can see it in case of Jammu and Kashmir, that both these expenditures are actually low. So, what is important here is to understand the ratio or relationship between out of pocket expenditure and government health expenditure, because when we talk about health coverage, we talk about actually the government's share on health expenditure. Because if you're not taking into consideration the government's share, then the burden will be on individuals or the out of pocket expenditure. So when the share of the government is lower, automatically the share of the out of pocket expenditure will be higher. Now we can see the figures at the level of the household. This is very different kind of data, and we need to understand it at a different level. So the earlier slides gave us pictures at the national level and the state level, and this slide is giving us information at the household level. When a particular household is spending money on purchasing healthcare services, then the household is actually spending money. Now, what is the source of that expenditure, or where from the money is coming to the household, or what is the source of income? So we have mentioned here source of finance of expenditure, because when the household is spending the money, it's getting the money from somewhere. What are those sources? Three sources are identified here. One is household income or savings, second is borrowing, and third is others. This others includes sale of physical assets or contribution from friends and relatives, and other sources if possible at that level. What is very problematic in this slide or in this data is the ratio between the household income and borrowing and others. Basically, we can see this that almost 80 or 85% of the households are actually 80 or 85% of the finances are coming from income or saving. Then around 10% of the finances are coming from borrowing and 5% of the finances are coming from other sources, which includes sale of physical assets. That means the household is not in a position to meet the cost of healthcare from its own income or saving. And actually it's borrowing money. That means it goes in debt, or it is selling the physical assets like land or whatever other physical assets the household is having. And that actually indicates the catastrophic consequences or impact, because if a particular household is having some amount of land, because India is primarily an agriculture country, and if that household is selling that piece of land to meet out the cost of health expenditure, then the sale of the agricultural land is actually distancing the household from the source of income. And these situations actually lead them to the process of impoverishment. We have seen in another presentation that almost 3% of the people every year go below poverty line situation because of the cost of healthcare expenditure. So this situation needs to be avoided. When WHO suggested to make provisions related to health financing or universal health coverage, it was categorically mentioned that the purpose is to protect people from the catastrophic impact of cost of health care, and this is visible here. And again, what is very important that these figures are given in terms of economic quintiles, or basically economic classes, you can say in simple words. Basically the whole income is divided in 5 quintiles, and this proportion is almost similar. That means all economic groups have similar situations, and both at rural and urban areas. That means the burden of healthcare expenditure is almost similar across all the income groups and rural and urban areas. And this condition or this situation basically makes it mandatory for all of us to understand the consequences or the processes related to health expenditure. And that is why the study of universal health coverage is becoming very important for all of us. Let us try to understand these things at conceptual level. So we'll try to understand universal health coverage in India. Primarily, the idea of UHC was suggested by WHO in the year 2005, as we discussed in the first slide. Now, as suggested by WHO, the Government of India constituted a high-level expert group in 2010 for suggesting the model of universal health coverage for India. Now, this committee or this expert group had 6 terms of references. Every expert group or committee which is constituted for a specific purpose is given few well identified terms of references on the basis of which it has to make its recommendations or suggestions. So these terms of references included several things, but the main ideas are related to financing, that is health financing, then resource generation, Then, ensuring access to essential drugs, vaccines, and medical technology, and then allowing participation of private for-profit sectors in delivery of healthcare in India. We can understand the logic of all these things. All these things are interrelated with healthcare service providing, whether it is related to financing or related to the resources available or related to the facilities like the drugs, medicines, vaccines, etc., or whether it is related to the agencies who will provide those services. And here categorically mentioned the that the committee should need to take into consideration the terms and conditions on the basis of which the private for-profit sectors could be included in the system. So we are not talking about here inclusion of not for profit but also for profit sectors. It would be very relevant to say here that the private sectors are generally classified or divided in two categories. One is not for profit and second is for profit. The not for profit associations are generally identified as NGOs or trust kind of thing which do not work for making profit, but for profit sectors are generally identified as private sector or corporate sector who work to earn some kind of profit. On the insistence of some of the members, a term of reference related to social determinants of health coverage has also been included. Generally, when we talk about health coverage, we do not talk about the social issues or the social factors or the social determinants. So the members of the committee also suggested that we should also include one term of reference related to social determinants. We'll talk about all these things in the coming slides. Now, what were the recommendations of this high-level expert group? This high-level expert group has made several recommendations. We have mentioned all those recommendations here, but we'll talk about some of these recommendations because of paucity of time. Most important recommendation is to increase public expenditure on health to at least 2.5% of GDP by the end of the 12th plan and to at least 3% of GDP. So we are not talking about here the total health expenditure. We are talking about the public health expenditure. So the public health expenditure is confined around 1.2, 1.3, or even 0.9 kind of percentage of GDP. This expert group has suggested that it should be increased up to 2.5% of GDP by the end of 12th five-year plan and to at least 3% of GDP by 2022. In simple words, it categorically suggests that the government share in public, the government share in health expenditure should be increased and roughly it should be doubled by the end of 12th five-year plan and it should be increased up to 3% of GDP by 2022. Let me make a comment here that we have seen it earlier also that this has not increased. This is still around 1.2%, 1.3%, 1%, some sort of that sort of thing. Then it also suggested to make available essential medicines free of cost. So on the one side, it talks about increasing the public expenditure on health. On the other side, it talks about making other facilities available. What are those other facilities? It talks about making available the essential medicines. Then it also talks about purchase of all healthcare services under the universal health coverage system should be undertaken either directly by the central and state government through their Department of Health or by quasi-governmental autonomous agencies. So basically it talks about the governance and management related aspect, and it suggests that purchase of all health care service should be undertaken by the central or the state government agency or a quasi governmental agency. It further says that all government funded insurance schemes should over time be integrated with universal health coverage system. So there are different types of health insurance scheme already going on in different states. This expert group has suggested that all such government funded insurance scheme should over time be integrated with the universal health coverage system because it would help in governance and management of the funds. There are other recommendations also, like develop a national health package that offers, as part of the entitlement of every citizen, essential health services at different levels of healthcare delivery system. That means the essential health services should be should be provided to people. Then it talks about reorient healthcare provision to focus significantly on primary healthcare. We have been talking about primary healthcare in our different lectures. This group also suggests that the healthcare provision should focus significantly on primary healthcare. And then it talks about strengthening the district hospitals. It also talks about to ensure adequate number of trained healthcare providers and technical healthcare workers at different levels. That means it talks about providing adequate health staff at the healthcare facility centers. It talks about rational use of drugs. It talks about greater attention to public health, and then also talks about establishment of National Health Regulatory and Development Authority. So all suggestions are there related to health governance, related to health management, and at the same time increasing the public health expenditure. Now we come to the models of universal health coverage which were existing in India at the time of those recommendations or period after that. But here we need to understand that in 2017, the health policy made several recommendations which changed the orientation of some of the health schemes or health programs. So these models were existing till 2017, and after 2017 we will see that some of those programs basically changed their orientation. So what was the condition prevailing? Let us try to understand this. I've taken these information from the situation analysis backdrop to National Health Policy 2017. While discussing National Health Policy 2017, I had mentioned that there was a separate document related to situation analysis which talked about the achievements and limitations in the years before the adaptation of the National Health Policy 2017. Now, what were those models? First, publicly financed health insurance. Basically, before 2017, when we were talking about health coverage, we were primarily talking about health insurance. In 2017 policy, there is widening of the scope of health coverage. Several new concepts have been introduced. We will discuss shortly. But before that, primarily, we are talking about health insurance or some kind of reimbursement of the health expenditure. A number of publicly financed health insurance schemes were introduced to improve access to hospitalization services and to protect households from high medical expenses. 8 states introduced health insurance programs for covering tertiary care needs. Now, we need to understand this that this health insurance program was meant for tertiary care needs, not for the primary healthcare needs, because the primary healthcare needs were provided free of cost. However, many of these states like Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, etc., moved to direct purchasing of care through trusts while reserving some services to be delivered only through public hospital. So some kind of arrangements were made at the level of the states. The central government launched the Rashtriya Swasth Bima Yojana RSBY in the year 2008. Now, this was a centrally sponsored program, Rashtriya Swasth Bima Yojana. Swasth is health, that means National Health Insurance Scheme. Rashtriya Swasth Bima Yojana. It was started in the year 2008. If you are interested in knowing the details of this program, you can Google this and all the information will be available there. However, I've included two, three important points here because we will talk about these things at a later stage also, because some of the programs which were introduced in the post 2017 period were actually linked with this program of RSBY. The population coverage under these various schemes expanded from almost 55 million in 2003-4 to about 370 million in 2014. Some kind of health insurance programs were actually running at the level of the states even prior to this RSBY. And there are several issues, but we are not talking about those things because primarily we are interested in universal health coverage model here. Nearly two-thirds, that is 180 million of this population were those in the below poverty line category. That means the kind of model or the health insurance model which were available at that time were also addressing the issues of people who were living below poverty line category. However, these programs had several weaknesses and several irregularities also, as several evaluation studies were conducted. The evaluations show that schemes such as RSBY have improved utilization of hospital services, especially in private sector and among the poorest 20% of household and SC/ST households. However, there was low awareness among the beneficiaries about the entitlements and how to use the RSBY card. This RSBY card was basically a kind of card which was used for availing the services related to the program RSBY. Another important concern that was raised during these evaluation studies was related to denial of services by private hospital for many categories of illnesses and oversupply of some services, oversupply of some services. Some hospitals, insurance companies, and administrators have also resorted to various fraudulent measures, including charging informal payments. So, what was happening that when those programs were enacted, some problems were there. Problems were related to several issues, sometimes denial of services, sometimes overcharging, sometimes some other issues. Then there have been reports of major increase in certain operations like hysterectomies due to coverage under the health insurance scheme. The point raised here is this, that there were some kind of irregularities existing under those health insurance programs. Insurance schemes vary widely in terms of benefit packages and have resulted in fragmentation of funds available for healthcare, especially selective allocation to secondary and tertiary care over primary care services. We know that the needs of the population are very different at the primary level or the secondary and tertiary level. So healthcare is very essential when the person is in need of secondary or tertiary level of care, because the primary level of care is provided free of cost, but some kind of irregularities were observed when the issues related to reimbursement or providing the services were reported. So all those evaluation studies basically helped in making policy corrections. And now we have the National Health Policy 2017. This health policy tried to address all those irregularities as were reported through those evaluation studies, and then it makes some kind of corrections and policy suggestions. So what are those policy corrections and suggestions? We have already discussed the National Health Policy 2017 in one previous lecture. We will not talk about all those provisions. We will talk about only the provisions related to universal health coverage. So what were those goals related to universal health coverage? The goal was progressively achieve universal health coverage. That means gradually, but in a increasing way, gradually increasing way, the goals related to universal health coverage should be achieved. One thing that is very important and needs to be mentioned here is this, that this policy document has widened the scope or meaning of the term health coverage. In the earlier policy documents or programs, primarily health coverage meant some kind of health insurance model. But here in this policy document, we will see several other implications of the term health coverage. And so we'll talk about all these things. Basically, this point is discussed at the level of 3 points A, B, and C. We'll talk about all these three because all these things are covering very important things. Point A, assuring availability of free, comprehensive primary health care services for all aspects of reproductive, maternal, child, and adolescent health, and for the most prevalent communicable, non-communicable, and occupational diseases in the population. So when we will talk about universal health coverage, this policy has suggested three-level programs. We can say first, assuring availability of free and comprehensive primary health care. So, at the level of primary health care, UHC will mean free and comprehensive primary health care. However, there's one point which is related to this issue, and that point is very important. I've talked about this earlier also. The policy also envisages optimum use of existing manpower and infrastructure as available in health sector and advocates collaboration with the non-governmental sector on pro bono basis. What is this pro bono basis? Basically, it talks about taking support or collaboration from the professionals either free of cost or at a minimum price. That means when we are talking about providing free primary health care, then it either will be made available free of cost or with a minimum cost. Second is ensuring improved access and affordability of quality secondary and tertiary care services through a combination of public hospitals and strategic purchasing of services in healthcare deficit areas from private care providers, especially the not-for-profit providers. The second point is very important. It talks about improved access and affordability of quality secondary and tertiary care services. In the first point, we talked about primary health care services. The second point, we're talking about secondary and tertiary health care services. But the mode of having access to these services is different. What is different? That it will be provided through a combination of public hospital and strategic purchasing of services in healthcare deficit areas from private care providers. So what is happening that at the ground level, not all the facilities are actually available in every region or district or locality. So if certain areas are not having the government facilities, then in those areas, services can be purchased from private care providers, but primarily from not-for-profit providers. The third point, this point is basically very important because it talks about providing services even in those areas which are deficit in providing healthcare services. That means some kind of availability of the secondary and tertiary care services should be made available. The third point, C, is talking about achieving a significant reduction in out-of-pocket expenditure due to healthcare costs and achieving a reduction in proportion of households experiencing catastrophic health expenditure and consequent impoverishment. Now here at point C, we are talking about the out-of-pocket expenditure and the catastrophic impact of that out-of-pocket expenditure. So in the initial slides, we talked about the out-of-pocket expenditure. This point C is referring to. So actually point A is referring to making comprehensive primary health care free of cost or with a minimum price. Then point B is talking about enhancing these services at the secondary and tertiary care level. But this will take place in collaboration with the private sector, and when the secondary and tertiary care services will be provided in collaboration with the private healthcare provider, then it will increase the cost of healthcare. So how to address this increased cost of healthcare or out of pocket expenditure? Through point C, through some kind of mechanism that we will discuss in the next point, because here we need actual provisions related to health coverage. Now I have included few other points also before talking about the health coverage mechanism as is suggested in this policy document. Basically, this National Health Policy 2017 has widened the scope of the word coverage, and it talks about coverage in several other senses also. Let us talk about some of these. The coverage of health services. Increase utilization of public health facility by 50% from current levels by 2025. That means whatever public facilities are available, these should be used at optimum level, and there can be the coverage of the health services could be enhanced. Whatever facilities we are having, we should enhance their reach and their utilization. Then the word coverage is also used in the context of immunization. Basically, it talks about improve immunization coverage. Government of India has launched a program which is known as Mission Indradhanush for vaccination, and this policy is suggesting that the scope of Mission Indradhanush should be strengthened, and it should provide coverage to immunization programs in a wider way. The third point is also mentioned here, which is talking about the term coverage. Coverage in terms of population and services will expand gradually. It talks about coverage in terms of population and the services available. So what is clear from the discussion so far is this, that the notion of universal health coverage is used in several ways. First, at the level of providing primary healthcare services. Second, as providing a secondary and tertiary care, which may increase the cost of healthcare. And then third, at the level of providing some kind of health insurance or other possible modalities. And then it also talks about increasing the scope of increasing the utility of the existing infrastructure of the health system. Now we come to the final point, which is the existing program and provisions related to Ayushman Bharat. Now, Ayushman Bharat is a very important program. It is the currently ongoing program. Ayushman Bharat, a flagship scheme of Government of India, was launched as recommended by National Health Policy 2017 to achieve the vision of universal health coverage. This initiative has been designed to meet sustainable development goal and its underlining commitment, which is to leave no one behind. Ayushman Bharat is an attempt to move from sectoral and segmented approach of health service delivery to a comprehensive need-based healthcare services as recommended by the high-level expert group also. This scheme aims to undertake path-breaking intervention to holistically address the healthcare system covering prevention, promotion, and ambulatory care at the primary, secondary, and tertiary level. Now, what is the modality? The modality is divided at two levels. Ayushman Bharat adopts a continuum of care approach comprising of two interrelated components, health and wellness centers and Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana. So two components are there. One is health and wellness center and second is Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, which is also known as PMJ. Now, what are these 2 points? The first point, health and wellness centers. In February 2018, the Government of India announced creation of 1,50,000 health and wellness centers by transforming the existing sub-centers and primary health centers. So we know that we have the structures of sub-centers and primary health centers. Now, these sub-centers and primary health centers are actually redesigned as health and wellness centers. Now, second point that is very important is Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana. Ayushman Bharat Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana is the largest health assurance scheme in the world, which aims at providing health cover of rupees 5 lakh per family per year for secondary and tertiary care hospitalization to over 10.7 crore poor and vulnerable families, approximately 50 crore beneficiary that form the bottom 40% of the Indian population. So basically this PMJI Yojana intends to cover 10.7 crore poor families, and that will be approximately 50 crore beneficiary, and it will cover the bottom 40% of the Indian population. Now, what are the provisions of this PMJ, which is such an ambitious program? PMJ was earlier known as the National Health Protection Scheme before being rechristened. It subsumed the then existing Rashtriya Swasthya Bima Yojana, which had been launched in 2008. So earlier we talked about the Rashtriya Swasthya Bima Yojana, and this Rashtriya Swasthya Bima Yojana has been redesigned and developed in the format of this PMJ with many improvements. One important improvement is related to coverage area. The coverage mentioned under PMJ also includes families that were covered in RSBY but are not present in the SECC 2011. What is this SECC 2011? It is the Socio-Economic Caste Census 2011. That means this PMJ program includes new beneficiaries. The beneficiary who were there under the RSBY program are there, but at the same time, it includes new beneficiaries. Now, the implementation model. Uh, Three implementation models have been suggested. We are coming to the last slide. Various states are using different models for implementing their own health insurance assurance scheme. States can implement schemes through assurance trust model, insurance model, or mixed model. The three models are there. First is assurance model or trust model. This is the most common implementation model adopted by most of the states. Under this model, the scheme is directly implemented without the intermediation of the insurance company. The financial risk of implementing the scheme is borne by the government. In this model, government essentially reimburses healthcare providers directly. So people have used healthcare services and the government is going to reimburse that cost of healthcare. This is known as assurance model or trust model. Second model, which is insurance model. In the insurance model, the government competitively selects an insurance company through a tendering process to manage PMJ in the states. That means this is performed through some kind of insurance company. And the third one is the mixed model, which is basically a combination of the assurance model or the insurance model. Now we come to the ground realities that we talked about the RSBY, we talked about the PMJ program. But what is the ground level situation. Percentage breakup of persons by health expenditure coverage type, all India. This data is also taken from the same report as we stated earlier, the health statistics as provided by the NHA. If you go by the percentage breakup of persons by health expenditure coverage type, we get to know that percentage of persons not covered under any scheme is around 85% in rural areas and 80% in urban areas. That means around 80 to 85% population is not having any benefit or any facility of health coverage as reported in this slide as taken from that particular Government of India report. And then what is the composition of people who have taken some kind of benefit of any of those health coverage program? Government sponsored insurance scheme, then government PSU as an employer, then employer supported health protection other than government PSU, and arranged by household with insurance company. All these make around 15 to 19 percentage. So these figures suggest that despite all those discussions, claims and schemes, the reach of the insurance programs or coverage program in terms of reimbursement is very little, very low. That means we have a long way to go. So we come to the last point, that is a criticism. There are so many things, but my approach remained critical all through this discussion. We kept on talking about the limitations of the programs. One important thing here is this, that we are yet to get the evaluation reports of the new scheme, that is the Ayushman Bharat. Hopefully, we will get evaluation reports in next 1 or 2 years. Then only we will get to know that what are the positive points and what are the negative points of this scheme. But as of now, we can conclude this topic by saying this, that there is immense need of having some kind of health coverage program. And when we talk about health coverage, we need to take into consideration the guideline provided by WHO. The purpose of health coverage program is to protect people from the catastrophic impact of rising healthcare cost. If our UHC program is unable to address that particular goal, we could say that the UHC is basically unable to achieve the goal that it was supposed to achieve. So this is an evolving process. We know that the programs keep on evolving. So whatever the achievements are as of today, we will get to know these achievements only through some kind of ground level evaluation reports. But yes, I would conclude by saying this, that privatization of health and universal health coverage are mutually interrelated issues. We need to keep in mind that health is a basic human right. It is the responsibility of the state to provide health care to all. It is basically in line with the Constitution of India. In our fundamental rights, we have talked about right to life, and basically right to health care is an integral part of right to life. So I'm concluding this topic, this discussion, this lecture, and I'm glad to share with you that this was the last lecture in this series. So hopefully we will meet again in a new series. I'm intending to start several new lecture series or online lecture series in coming future. Thank you very much for watching my lectures. Please do subscribe the channel so that you will get information about uploading a new lecture, and do share it with your friends or students or with anybody who may be interested in these lectures. Thank you very much.